Our lives are made up of moments. Some that take our breath away, and some that can take our life away. I knew my life would never be the same, and it wasn't. It wasn't the same ever. Words cannot express the string of events that followed after this night. The night I almost killed the popular girls. I grew up in Vancouver, and I grew up in a small city just right outside of the downtown area. I went to a school in a very affluent part of Vancouver. My family was not affluent. We didn't have a lot of money, but we lived in that neighborhood because we actually found a house that was a steal of a deal. And so I had to go to the school where a lot of the rich kids went to. As much as I didn't fit in, that's another story. I struggled in high school. In grades 7, 8, 9, I couldn't find my place. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I was doing. I was very, very good at English, writing, art, and music especially. I was very into music. So for the first 3 years of high school in grades 7, 8, 9, I spent my entire lunch hours in the art room, in the music room, doing music, doing art, creating things. That's what made me happy. And I was never really in the group with the popular kids. I tried. And it always resulted in the most disturbing moments whenever I did try. So I want to tell you about one of those moments. It was a moment. So this is grade 10, and I had just gotten my license. There was only about 5 people that had a car and a license in my grade, and I was one of those people. My mom, she was a nurse and worked, night shifts and stuff like that. So, it was good for the way our family worked because I was able to take the car to school. I would take the car during the day and bring it back to her in time for her to go to work in the evenings. So in October of grade 10, I got my license, and I was so over the moon excited. And with that came people that were suddenly befriending me, wanting to come with me in my car at lunch. And this was a whole new world to me because I really didn't have any friends. Grade 10 was a weird one. It was really weird. I didn't know where I belonged. So in grade 10, there was this one girl. We're gonna call her Tiffany. And I don't know what it was. It was something about this girl that all through high school, I always ended up hanging out with her. She was in with the popular kids, but not really truly in, you know what I mean? They were friends with her and they invited her places. Like there was like the ultimate popular group. There was 4 girls and a bunch of guys that kind of followed these girls around. So this girl would always want to hang out with me, and I don't know what it was. And anyone out there, have you ever had a friend like that always wants to hang out, but weird and bad shit always happens when you're with them? Every time she asked me to hang out, I always said yes. I had a car, I could go pick her up, and I think it was convenient for her, and it worked for me because I was able to at least have some kind of socializing interactions with people in high school. So one night, Tiffany called me and said, "Hey, let's go to this house party tonight. Come pick me up and we'll get some beer and we'll go." And I think this place was like probably a 10-minute drive from my house. So I said, sure, why not? I played ringette, hockey, ringette, Ringette is like with a ring instead of a puck. It's for girls. I grew up playing ringette from age 9 all the way up to 17. I played ringette. So on weekends, I didn't drink because I always had early morning practice on like the Saturday or Sunday morning at like 6 or 7 in the morning. So I never really drank. So I went to her house and picked her up. We drove down to the liquor store, and there was a store that always sold us cigarettes. So we stopped there to get cigarettes, and then we stopped at the liquor store next to it, and she charmed a man into getting her beer for the night. And the guy went and got her beer. She brought it into the car, and then we drove off to this house party. So we walked into the house party, and it was this huge house with like 3 levels. And on the 3rd level, there was a balcony that looked out over the road. So we went in, I got introduced to a whole bunch of guys that Tiffany was friends with, and they were really nice, and they were, you know, kind of like flirting with me, and it felt really good. I was actually feeling just on top of the world. It just felt really good, and I felt like maybe there was this chance that I was able to have a new circle of friends and be included and maybe even have a boyfriend. And we were all out on the balcony, and then this 4-door Honda Civic pulls up, and I see all of these beautiful girls, 4 of them, get out of the car, and lo and behold, it was the popular girls. So they had arrived, and of course, as they always did with every single house party ever, they swept into the party. All the attention just went on them. They just had this way about them that they would just take all of the attention and flirt and just rope everybody into them in a way that I can't even describe. And everyone else was just a nobody unless you were acknowledged by these girls. And Tiffany was kind of friends with these girls, and so Tiffany went up to the girls and said hi, and I was with Tiffany feeling kind of awkward and kind of standing behind Tiffany like, should I say hi? Should I not say hi? And I basically was not really acknowledged by them, and they kind of just looked at me and like did a half smile, you know what I mean? Like, hi. That's basically how they treated me every time they saw me, was I just was dirt. Nope, not cool enough. Nope, not cool enough. About 2 or 3 hours went by, and I had literally been sitting out on the balcony, not really having fun at all. These 4 girls were in the kitchen drinking and having fun, but yeah, they were, you know, the life of the party. And so, you know, we kind of went into the kitchen where they were, and like, you know, we were kind of intermingling with them here and there, and like with all the other guys and stuff that were there too. But then towards the end of the night, I really felt like I was included. And then a few of the popular girls were actually turning around and talking to me, and I was thinking, wow, like, what a great night. Maybe I can actually, you know, not so much be popular. That was never really what I wanted to do. And still to this day, I don't care about that kind of stuff. All I want to do is feel included in something. That's all I wanted to feel, was show up to school and just feel included, you know, like not get snubbed by people or treated badly. I only ever wanted to be friends with everybody. That's like the kind of person I am. And that night was so good. I was feeling so good, and I was feeling so included and happy. Tiffany and I had to leave. It was probably around midnight, and my curfew was 12. You know, we said goodbye to everybody, got in my car, and so I had to go drop Tiffany off at home. So we lit up a cigarette and we drove Tiffany to her house, and I dropped Tiffany off and said goodbye. And, you know, I dropped her off, and I was just feeling so good. So good. And I was driving along, and I was just feeling so good, and I had my music cranked, all the windows down. So I was driving up this street, and I was driving back to my house. Back in those days, probably late 90s, early 2000s, a big trend for a lot of houses was to have overgrown hedges. A lot of the houses there had these hedges that came like right up over, almost like halfway up their house, so that people had privacy from the roads. And some people took care of their hedges and some people didn't take good care of their hedges. So I was driving down the street, listening to music, just having a blast. And I came up to a stop sign. And I noticed that one of the hedges was quite overgrown, almost covering the stop sign a little bit. The hedge was kind of growing and leaning and creating a blind spot. So I pull up to the stop sign, and this hedge was just overgrown, so it's hard to see. And I looked both ways. And so I'm looking past the hedge, and I was going to take a left. I was trying to take a left. I had my signal on, and I was looking both ways. And at that moment, something told me to hit the gas and go. So I hit the gas. And I turned left. And as I was going forward, my headlights illuminate a car coming right in front of me. And I almost went right into the middle of this car. I screamed. So the car swerved off the road, just about hitting a tree because it was avoiding the front end of my car. It swerved back into the road, and when I hit the brakes, I slid onto the sidewalk and into a bush. And my heart dropped. I was so frozen in fear, and luckily the car swerved back onto the road and carried on down the street, slamming on the brakes. And I pulled over to the side of the road, and I'm screaming and crying in shock because I just about T-boned someone. I had almost T-boned a car. And I look down the street, and the car slams on its brakes with 4 girls inside. And those 4 girls were the popular girls. I was freaking out. I didn't know what to do. So you know what I did? I hit the gas. I got back onto the road, and I just sped off. I took off. I panicked. And I sped up in front of the car, passed it, and just kept going. I don't know, I panicked. I should have stopped, but I panicked. What does a 16-year-old kid do in that situation? I panicked. My instincts told me to run and go as fast as you can away from that car, because God knows what they're going to do. So I took this other road, and I hung another left down this road to try and avoid that car. And I tried my best to go as fast as possible because I knew that that car was going to go bolt and try and find me. I knew that that car was so mad. I could feel it, that car was going to, the person in that car was going to come find me. So I tried to go as fast as possible down a back road and up to my regular road to get to my house so that I could avoid them. And I just sped and kept driving and drove and sped. I just drove as fast as I could down some back road trying to get away from this car because I just had this feeling. I just knew it. And as I was coming towards the main road that went up to my house, I tried my best to speed and go as fast as possible, but there was this 4-way stop that these 2 roads intersected into, and I saw the car coming down the road towards that 4-way stop. And I'm freaking out going, oh my God, we are both gonna end up at this 4-way stop at the same time. We were both at the 4-way stop. And I recognized the headlights. It was the popular girls. And they were mad. And when we got to that 4-way stop, they were flagging me. out the window. They had their arms out the window. They were screaming and swearing and telling me to pull over. They were screaming their lungs out the window at me. So I was first to go in the four-way stop. So I went, and they came around behind me, and they followed me. They were honking, flashing their high beams. They were mad. I knew I was dead meat, and I panicked. I didn't know what to do. I had already run away the first time, and I knew I had to pull over. I pulled off to the side of the road, and I just sat there in my car. They pulled over behind me, and one by one, through my rear view mirror, I watched each of them get out of the car to come towards me. So the lead popular girl was the one driving. She came right up to my window and was pounding on my window, telling me to get out of the car. She was yelling profanities at me that I had never heard before. She was calling me an absolute psychopath. She was calling me every name in the book, and screaming and crying, saying that I almost killed all of them. And I almost did. I got out of the car, and all I could do was just stand there, frozen in fear. And all I could do was look at the ground. I didn't even have a response because I knew that what I did was so wrong, and I could have hurt or killed 4 people. And had she not swerved, I would have literally killed them all. And she just kept yelling at me and yelling at me, calling me a psychopath. Do you know that you could have killed all of us? What the fuck were you thinking? How dare you? All of the things that were coming out of her mouth, I agreed with because it was such a stupid move. But something told me to hit the gas. Some force of nature told me to hit the gas. You know, the voice in the back of your head, it just told me to hit the gas. And then all that could come out of my mouth was, I'm sorry. And I kept looking at the ground saying, I'm sorry, it was an accident. I'm sorry, it was an accident. I'm sorry. I was so embarrassed and humiliated and upset and frightened. So many things were going through my mind. I guess the silence and the lack of expression on my face, because I was so frozen, made them think that I had a complete lack of empathy for what I had done. And because I wasn't sorry enough, they thought I was some horrible person. How do you apologize to someone for almost T-boning them and killing them? I just kept saying, I'm sorry, it was an accident. I'm sorry, it was an accident. And she responded with, an accident? You hit the gas just as we were coming down the street. The string of events that happened after that moment would forever change the course of my life. I knew that I would never be friends with them again. I knew that my entire life in high school was ruined. But with that night came a string of events thereafter. And these are the stories I'm going to tell. The trauma that ensued this night will never be forgotten. Thank you for watching.